We appear to be live. All right. It's Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we are talking about Donkey Kong Bananza on the Nintendo Switch 2. So, this past weekend, New York City, we talk about it perennially on Geek Nights, does the summer streets thing that has been slowly growing as time has gone on. Not as fast as it should, because really it should be all the streets and all the 365 days a year, but
it's going on like, I don't know when the first year was, but like I can't remember living here and it not happening.
Yep. It used to be relatively small and only like a couple of weekends, and it's just gotten bigger over time.
Well, it was like two or three Saturdays in August, and it only went from like 72nd-ish in Manhattan down to the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yep.
And you would go early in the morning and then it wasn't crowded, but then it would get crowded like midday. And I think if I remember correctly, it ended around 1. I don't know if my memory is.
It definitely ended pretty early, if I recall, because I often would be biking home.
It started like I would go from like 7 to like 11 and then bail, right? Yeah. And I would be able to go up and down several times, even though it got slower when you were south of Grand Central. It would still, it was short enough. I go up and down a whole bunch.
Yeah, and we biked a lot less distance back then compared to what we do now in like a given day.
Anyway, but in the recent years, they've expanded it, and so this year it's bigger than ever. And now, like I think last year and the year before, it reached like Harlem. Now it goes all the way to Dyckman, which is, if you don't know Manhattan, that's basically so far north, that's as north as you can go in Manhattan, basically, like north of the George Washington Bridge, like all the way up there. And it goes, the route it used to have is also included, and it goes until 3, which I think is an expansion of the time. And also they added extra boroughs last year, the year before, 2 years ago. They had like, 1 day each in like Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Staten Island.
Yep.
The Manhattan one still has the same number of days. But the thing is not only this year was it so much longer, but what really surprised me is that, like I said, early on, it would only be crowded like south of Grand Central, right? Like the deeper Manhattan area.
Oh, it was crowded top to bottom, and we didn't do it super early, but we were not there late either.
Yeah, the past 2 years, it's like once even still, you would get north of Grand Central, it would thin out. You would get to Harlem, it would be really thinned out. Now, it was crowded all the way to Dyckman, like all the way. It wasn't as crowded in the northern parts, but it was still crowded enough, right? It's like the number of people that came out was way more. You don't need any kind of counting to know that.
And what particularly warms the cockles of my heart is how many people I saw doing it on just regular old city bikes. Like, it's just this confluence of...
you can get if it's not an e-bike, you get a free, I believe it's free to use a city bike during summer streets.
And it just shows, if you get the death machines off out of city streets and you give people access to bikes, not even good bikes, just okay bikes, people will use them both a lot.
Yeah.
But the thing for me is, like, I usually don't bike the city streets just because we do longer bike rides. Like, it's fun, but if I don't get up like right at 7 when it starts, it's going to be too crowded to bike fast. And I can bike fast on like the West Side. And not that I dislike biking on it, but it is a rare opportunity for me. Because, on Geek Nights, I talk a lot about how I ski and I bike and I run. Like, those are the 3 main sports I do. But I do also rollerblade. And I used to rollerblade a lot when I was young. I cared a lot about my blades. I had like different rollerblades for different use cases, different wheels I'd swap out.
Rollerblades like hit the scene, they were like a big deal.
They were.
And then they're less of a deal now, but rolling has had a somewhat resurgence, but sort of now it feels like it receded, I don't know, but it's never going to be like it was, back in the days where like, there were roller rinks and whatnot.
Yep. Though the problem with the roller rinks,
well, I don't know.
I really like going to roller rinks as a kid, but there was a big problem in that era that was never addressed, partly because the roller rinks all went out of business. But the roller rinks were designed for quad slow roller skates for people to do chill figure skating and go in a circle. But even like shitty rollerblades from the 90s were like 4 or 5 times faster than the fastest possible skater.
Most of the roller rinks, at least when they were open and I would go to them for some kid's birthday party, they would always be like, no rollerblades allowed.
Yeah. So the way our rinks did it is basically they ended up going like no skates allowed, skates only in the middle, because everyone had rollerblades. Like everyone who came to these places had rollerblades. But
yeah, it's kind of like, if you imagine the speed skaters at the Olympics don't mix with the figure skaters of the hockey, right? It's
exactly. When they do, there's going to be trouble for everyone involved. So, but anyway, so I rollerbladed a lot, and I still do rollerblade, and the technology has advanced significantly since the last pair of rollerblades I owned compared to the ones I own now. And to give you an example of that, I used to, they had these ABEC ratings, which was like how precise and how lubricated are the bearings inside of the rollerblade wheels. And the ratings were basically 1, 3, and 5. And ABEC 5 bearings cost like an amount of money my family could not afford. So I had like ABEC 1 bearings, like the garbage ones. And nowadays, like ABEC 9 is kind of the cheapest thing you can get, and I think the numbers are basically meaningless now. The rollerblades I own today, when I first got them some years ago, I actually was in trouble because they were so fast, I couldn't control myself compared to anything I'd ever used before. And these aren't even crazy speed skates. Like, there are way more dangerous skates. But, so I use them still, and I mostly use them to train my muscles for skiing, because the muscles, this is the reason I'm doing this in my opening bit, the muscles you use, as Scott encountered jump roping, when you run versus bike versus rollerblade, are different intersections of muscles that don't all get used at the same time in the same situations. So I don't get to rollerblade much in the city because, like, it's hard. There's not many places to rollerblade. You don't want to rollerblade over pothole New York City street. You can't rollerblade on the sidewalk. There's debris and garbage everywhere. So summer streets is like this rare time I can get on a well-paved street and rollerblade a long distance. So I rollerbladed like 20 miles, like the longest I have ever rollerbladed by a wide margin in one day. And rollerblading over bridges in New York, not the most fun thing in the world. Just gonna put that out there. You're slow going up because
roller skates and blades typically are best for flat. But it's too. It's like I don't even think the world's best rollerblader could rollerblade up a mountain. Right? It would be difficult.
But going down is hard too, because like you have to have very good technique to slow down without using your brake.
Brakes are not. They have brakes, but they're not.
Yeah. Let's just say they're not is a good way to describe those brakes. But
even the best ones available are not,
So the next day, what I discovered is that there are a handful of muscles in the area of the pelvis that decided to say, hey, Ram, you've never done that before, and you're in your 40s, and maybe perhaps you should not have rollerbladed 20 miles as your literal first time putting on rollerblades in a year. But it was a good time otherwise.
All right.
Yeah. So you got any news? A lot of PAX West news.
Well, there's Gamescom, which is like basically like the European E3 happened. And so there's a shit ton, you think, the AAA games are dying, and they kind of are, but yet they just announced a whole crap ton of them. So some things that are at least, worth discussing about, where there's something to say about them is, or at least briefly, there's that Fallout TV show that I heard was good. That's an Amazon Prime.
Yeah, people I trust have said it was good, not just people who like Fallout.
Yeah, so I'm planning to watch it, but there's a second season. Okay, that seems promising. Europa Universalis, which I got the third one and barely played it. They're now on to the fifth one.
Yeah. I just remember we launched that game and we had an expert at that game telling us what to do. And I forget it was you or me, but one of us clicked a slider and apparently that takes effects in real time. And like our entire kingdom just collapsed instantly and the game was over.
Yeah. So I'm not a Warhammer person, but I know some Warhammer people. I'm in some communities where there are Warhammer people, and there's so many Warhammer games I can't keep track of them all, especially all the different video games.
Yep.
And this Dawn of War 4 is coming, and that's apparently the RTS one. So okay. The big one that I think a lot of people are going to lose their minds over, that I don't care about at all, is there's going to be like this huge official crossover between Final Fantasy XIV, which is big, and Monster Hunter Wilds, which is big.
Those are two, that Venn diagram, I don't know how much it overlaps, but those people will get along, I think.
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot of people who like both of those things. So there you go. There's a new Call of Duty. There's what else was there? Oh, Bubsy. You know Bubsy, right?
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
There was Bubsy 4D is a real game that's coming out.
There was Cult of the Lamb, which I didn't enjoy.
There's a DLC coming for it.
Yeah,
right?
But one thing I've noticed, Cult of the Lamb has maintained this very consistent following, and there's a lot of ephemera being generated.
Cult following?
Yeah. But as far as I can tell, they have not really added much mechanically to the game, and not like it's like that game. The aesthetic is great. I love everything about that game except playing it. It just feels like worse Hades.
There's going to be a new, there's been a lot of new beat 'em ups. Like there was the new Turtles one. Well, there's going to be a He-Man one.
Yeah. Trouble is, I have not beaten any of the beat 'em ups that I got.
Nope.
I play the first 3 levels, then I just forget about it.
Yeah. Ron Gilbert actually has a new game, Death by Scrolling, that actually looks somewhat interesting. It looks not quite like Vampire Survivors, but it's like an auto scroller where you have to sort of like keep up with what's going on. Actually, it's somewhat unique. Come on, play it.
Yeah.
There's a Hollow Knight. Like I don't know if it's a DLC or a sequel, but I tried to play Hollow Knight like twice, and I like a Metroidvania, and people love the shit out of that game, but I didn't think it was that good.
I feel like there's the kind of person who's obsessed with movement tech around jumping in those games as a different kind of person.
I don't know. Is it that much of a movement?
Oh no. So, but then there's a different kind of person who is into like clever, like my enemies around the exploration that are all like really unique and like really unique environments. There's a third kind of person who's more like me, I think, who really just wants to explore. Like Animal Well is the kind of game like that I think scratches the itch for me the most lately.
Yeah, I think the Hollow Knight really just was way too much of like a more Soulsy and less Metroid with all the fighting of the bad guys in there. Right. There's going to be some Squid Game in the Fortnite. There's a new Silent Hill, which I don't know if that's like, it feels like, I don't pay any attention to that at all, but it feels like Silent Hill games are rare, right? Like they don't come out that often, so that could be a big deal.
How many Silent Hill games are there?
Came out and I didn't know about them because I don't pay attention. And it's
because on one end, it's like, yeah, there's 14 Final Fantasies, but also I had Final Fantasy when I was a single-digit age.
Yeah, and there's a game, I didn't realize this game was popular enough to get a sequel called Moonlighter, which is like a dungeon crawly town kind of roguelike. Like the concept was good because basically the way it works is like during the day, you're a shopkeeper, similar to Racketeer, but not quite. And then at night, you go in the dungeon and you fight. So but it's roguelike in nature. Where
I like that
Racketeer
formula. If it's done well. So I'm looking at Silent Hill games, and actually the progression of them is interesting. One came out every couple of years for the first 4. Then there was this explosion from 2006 to 2010 of a bunch of different Silent Hill games. And then after 2013, there was a gap. PT came out, which is listed here, and then nothing until 2023.
Okay. But yeah, the Moonlighter game is having a sequel that looks more 3D. So I guess enough people played the first one that they think it's worth making another one. And then I think there's going to be another WoW expansion, or so it's interesting. There's a whole bunch of stuff going, but those are the ones that at least I know something, at least one sentence to say something about.
Yep, I'll link to a good IGN thing that lists literally every announcement.
Yeah, but it's like AAA, games feel like they're sort of dying, right? Like we said before, Monopoly Go is the biggest game on earth, period, right? It's like the money, the budget of the AAA games is crazy high, and the revenues are super low relative to a game like Monopoly Go, right? Which costs way less to make and brings in orders of magnitude more money. And
what's the old phrase? You will never be poor selling slop to pigs.
Right. But yet people keep making these AAA games, at least in these major franchises, keep getting made, right? Your Capcoms, your Squares, these companies are still out there. Almost none of the things I mentioned were like new games. They're all sequels or new installments in franchises, right? I think every single one of them. So it's like the AAA investment in any new idea, it feels like it's completely gone.
Well, I think there's a few things going on. On one hand, there is this sort of baseline, constant demand for games of all kinds, and there is a very big audience for this like AAA big game. But at the same time, the situation of how much money can be pumped into a company and then turned into revenue from that audience, I think it ebbs and flows. And I think it wasn't so much that AAA gamers and gaming contracted as there were a lot of AAA options that were all going after the same pool of AAA gamers. And now we saw a winnowing, and the winners are the ones that are continuing to make AAA games. And I think they're investing in those games in a slightly different way. I think they focused on reducing costs. I don't know what that means in terms of, will these sequels be a lot more like the games that came before, where they innovate mostly on the writing but not on the gameplay? Like, if you want to make a series of AAA games cheaply, it's way cheaper to have the art than it is to have a completely new gameplay and completely new game engines.
Yeah, I guess, if you've already got people, a community of people that played Silent Hill, right? And it's like, it's not a subscription, it's not a microtransaction thing. If you can crank out another one, you update your graphics and whatnot for the newest systems, and you just really need to do the writing and the whatever, and you can get all those people to come back again. It seems like, at least it's if the amount of revenue is enough for the size of your company to where it's like worth it, even though it's not going to be as, rather than shifting you can't shift your whole company to go compete with Monopoly Go. Yeah. Right. It's like you're Capcom. This is what you're already doing, right? You're a machine that makes Resident Evils and Mega Mans and whatever, and Street Fighters. It's like it would be really hard to just throw all that in the bin and do something else.
There's also the concept of keeping a franchise warm, where you may not make a ton of money from it, but it keeps the franchise alive in the community and alive in everyone's minds for future deeper exploitation when the market shifts.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting to see like just what AAA things are still going and which ones not.
Speaking of interesting to see, so there is part of the decline in AAA, at least the perceived decline too, I think, is game convention culture is going through yet another evolution. I think we've been doing GeekNights long enough to where we've gone through 4 or 5 evolutions of what these cons are like in the United States, at least. And PAX, at least, in terms of attracting an audience to go to the expo hall that buys every single badge and sells out, that aspect of PAX is definitely in decline, because PAX West, which is coming up in like 2 weeks, like next weekend, not sold out. And not only is it not sold out...
Even Saturday sold out?
I don't think so. I can still buy a Saturday badge on the fucking Groupon.
Can you buy one on the web? Yeah, yes. You can buy any badge you want on the official website.
Yep. So they've the thing that strikes me about that is one, I'm in a industry professionals community, and PAX gave us a discount code to get a discount on PAX badges for anyone in that community. There's also a Groupon that seems legit with an additional code, and you can buy a PAX Saturday badge for $60. Like, actually, no, $47.20. It's lowered even more.
Yeah, the official website, if you just buy it naively, is $79 for a Saturday badge. So
Groupon was selling it for $74, then discounted to $59, and then if you put a code that is on the Groupon page in right now, it's $47. That is not a great sign compared to the era of every PAX badge is sold out no matter what within a couple days.
Yeah, I think what happened was, we started to see, there was E3, right? And the companies, it was for industry, at least supposedly.
Yep.
And it was only an expo hall. There really wasn't anything else there, right? It was expo hall and press releases and announcement, industry announcements. And PAX was like, that's not for the gamers. We'll make PAX for the gamers, right?
Yep.
Not for but the industry supported it by showing up at the expo hall thinking, hey, isn't it a better idea to go to an expo hall where our customers come and not the media? The media will still be there anyway. It's like, it'll be, right, let's do that. Right? So E3 died. But at the same time, all the companies started to, especially with the YouTubes and the streaming and whatnot, were like, hey, we can just do what Apple's doing, right? Everyone watches the Apple keynote on the internet. People are watching the Nintendo Direct and whatever. It's like, we don't need to go and do an industry panel and move all our people somewhere to do a press thingy. It's like we could just release a video that we make that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. No risk of flubbing or whatever, or anything weird happening, right? We put out the exact marketing. People love to control the message, right? And so that combined with when the dark times came, because PAX was still like bumping right up until that last year. People didn't come. People bought badges to that PAX East of darkness.
Yep.
Right? But a lot of them didn't come because fear of getting ill, which is well-founded. And the industry did show up to that PAX. But then there was time where there wasn't any, a year or two. And the industry was like, wait a minute. We were investing all this time, resources into going to these conventions and setting up and doing these panels and having these booths. And we took those away and it didn't really lose any money, right? It's like all that marketing budget was kind of, they realized the truth, which is like, yeah, some ads, ads work, but not all ads work.
Yep.
Right?
Now, meanwhile, at least in our perception, like not based on any inside information, just us having gone to every PAX since 2008, PAX went through its own transition of originally it was for, fans of the webcomic Penny Arcade, which to this day, like a lot of people who are at PAX have no idea what Penny Arcade is. Like we've encountered those people. But that community, it was basically the industry saw that and said that is a community that is very easily targeted and focused on a certain kind of game overall. So it was like a slam dunk. But PAX's back then, you didn't buy a Saturday badge. You bought a PAX badge, and the same people would be at PAX all 3 days. And the expo hall was a relatively small part of PAX because a lot of the content was active stuff PAX people were doing with each other and playing tabletop games and all that kind of stuff, the little arcades and the console rooms. There was a big shift when PAX went to selling individual day badges because we hit this sort of bubble where a lot of people started coming to PAX just to see the AAA stuff in the expo hall and then leave and didn't do anything else at PAX. And that started to, over time, selling the single day badges, that started to dilute the community of people who would come for the entire weekend. And we had this divergence of cultures. But now, if the people aren't coming for the AAA, you've got a con that shifted to really target people who come in for a day and leave. And those people aren't coming anymore. But meanwhile, you've gutted a percentage of the people who would come for the whole weekend because of the era where they couldn't get a hotel and they couldn't get a Saturday badge and everything sold out. And it was hard to go to PAX. And now we have PAXs that don't sell out.
The increased costs and the, people getting laid off and having less money.
Yeah, everybody's getting laid off. Nobody's got any money.
The economy's even more fucked up. It's been fucked the fuck up the whole time, but now it's more fucked the fuck up.
And PAX West in particular has a problem in that East is accessible to a huge, huge number of people who can drive or take a train a very short, cheap distance to get to it. And Unplugged is in the middle of Philly. How many millions of nerds can just get on some trains and be in Philly to go to that? But not many people live in Seattle. And Seattle's not near other things. So almost everyone who would want to go to PAX has to fly there. PAX West is a way bigger expense than any other PAX for anyone who doesn't happen to live in Seattle.
Yeah, West was the first PAX, and it was closer to the industry, which is on the West Coast. And it had the original community. It was centered in that area. And so it was the most known because it's been around longer. And, it had all these reasons that it was the bigger PAX, right? But over time, reality set in, especially, with the community, right?
Yep.
It's not really the biggest, they called it PAX Prime, but it's actually not Prime.
PAX East became the biggest PAX pretty quick after PAX East existed.
Yeah. People just had to find out about it, existing.
Yep. But we will be there, of course, during our panel and everything, and I think it'll be a good time. Expect to see us in tabletop. But I do want to call your attention. The keynote speaker this year is not just doing a keynote, they're also doing a legit panel, like an hour and a half long panel. We got Naoki Yoshida, a video game producer and director at Square Enix, who is important, and Hiroshi Minagawa. You may know this person from Final Fantasy Tactics, and they're doing a hour and a half long panel to talk about making those games and game design and their creative process. And this is exactly the kind of
actually talk about that.
I think they will, based on I've stiffed around to where interviews and things either of them have done before. They get pretty dense and pretty real pretty quick when they are asked questions. If they're asked a direct question, they give a good answer. So this is the most excited I have been for a PAX keynote speaker in a decade at this point.
They finally got someone who makes games.
Yeah.
It's they keep having, it's like they had Reggie, and I'm not going to say that Reggie was bad, but it's
I learned a lot about Panda Express.
That's a great keynote to have Reggie, but he's a marketing guy.
Yeah.
Has Reggie ever made a game in his life?
Yep.
Right? Maybe, but it's that's not what he does, right? It's the best keynotes early on, even though some of the ones that were, not the greatest, at least it was someone who actually made games. Mm-hmm. And it's they've moved on to having all these other people who are it was at PAX East, it was some YouTube guy, right?
Yep. Now I'm fine with people who study games, Jane McGonigal is a fantastic pick. But
sure.
I guess
also someone who she also made games.
Yeah, that's true. But content creator who just makes content about games, unless they are doing unless it was an esports commentator talking about the industry of esports commentary at some sufficient depth, I'm not interested at all.
Yeah, it's you have there's many aspects of the gaming industry, and I'm not, it's you should get more perspectives than just the game designer, developer perspective. Yeah. But I feel there's no reason to hear from, because the audience is primarily players. Right. Mm-hmm. And so players don't need to hear from other players. They already know the player perspective because it's their perspective. Mm-hmm. Right. So the perspective they should hear should be the perspective of someone on the other side, something you can't hear, a rare, information.
Or even if it is a player. As a player, you know what players I want to hear from? Professional players.
High level.
Yeah.
Right. So. Media people, it's there is a media perspective, but it's yeah. I feel the media perspective is the press belongs in the listening and not the talking, right? The press is there to report on what's going on. Hearing from the press is basically like hearing everything else about the industry secondhand, whatever industry it is, right? It's like when you hear from like sports writers, right? It's like you're getting reports about the thing you actually care about, and it's like that's okay when you're like, because you read media, right? So you're always seeing the perspective of media because you're reading media, watching media, right? It's like you don't need to hearing the keynote is like, what's the point in that? I already read it, the newspaper.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. It should be the rare content, the perspective that the people at PAX have not encountered before.
Anyway,
so that I'm going to line up for that one in advance because this is the first time I looked at
a main event, so I don't think it'll be hard to get into.
I don't think it will be. When I say line up in advance, I mean
especially with the low ticket sales.
I'm going to roll in like 20 minutes before instead of 1 minute after. But anyway, things of the day. What do you got?
So, there's those choose your own adventure books. We know about those, right? And then there were those like D&D ones, like the D&D branded ones.
Yep, I had a bunch of those.
Yeah. So apparently there was a series of these books.
Wait, apparently you didn't know. I played like most of the Lone Wolf books.
Oh, I had never heard of it before. So
really, I have a bunch of them physically here that I bought in Wildwood. Pretty sure in your presence.
Okay, then. Well, there's a series of choose your own adventure books called Lone Wolf. The character's name is Lone Wolf, and it takes place on a world called Magnamund.
Fuck if I knew what the lore was. I don't remember. I barely remember what happened in these games.
Magnamund, and I only read about the lore like when I found this thing of the day. And what makes these choose your own adventure books a little different from the others is that you would actually have like a character sheet and you could like carry stuff over from one book to the next. So it was like a real solo RPG campaign deal as opposed to just go to page 33, go to right, that kind of thing. And so some time ago, like this isn't new, it's just new to me. Like in, like I think even like 99, it says the person who created these books was like, yeah, you know what? Go ahead. I'm not making any money off these fucking things anymore, right? Even though they were kind of somewhat popular enough that Rim knows about them. Let's put some amount of them, all of them, I don't know, but for free. So you can go as this Project Aeon, and if you really want to, the books, they're internet editions of the books, and you can just sort of, read/play them online in various formats.
The thing that stood out, so Google, because Google doesn't work anymore, I was trying to find a screenshot of it. The way these books worked as games, like their fundamental thing was they had randomness generators in them. Like in the back of the book, there'd be like a big grid on a page. And the instructions were like, hold your pencil a certain distance above the held open book, close your eyes, drop the pencil, and whatever mark it makes, that is your roll. Now go back and see whether or not you died. And you could just fucking lose. You'd be reading this book and just like, well, you died. Fuck you.
You lose a choose your own adventure also.
Yeah, but these you could lose for randomness alone. You just didn't win the fight. In choose your own adventure, it's like if you choose to fight the goblin, your fate is already sealed. Here, you might choose to fight the goblin and just lose, and the goblin's the only way forward.
Well, just try again. Yeah.
I mean, I just cheated.
Yeah, why not? But yeah, I'm just saying it's interesting and that someone's keeping these alive for all this time. It's a high quality preservation, even if the thing itself, the quality of it isn't there. Especially since solo RPGs are so hot these days. It's like, here, go ahead and play like one of the oldest, probably among the oldest solo RPGs there is.
Yeah.
It is well preserved for your enjoyment or study or whatever.
Yeah, that kind of thing is worth doing. I mean, you go back and play an old adventure game just to see what it was like. I enjoyed my time with these books as a kid. I think I
enjoy a whole lot of time with almost all of them.
I don't know. So I don't know if I need to enjoy that time again. So I think today, one thing I always like, and I know I bring these up on Geek Nights perennially, I really like, I was big into anime music videos from high school onward. Like I was kind of obsessed with them, and I made a good one. Like a long time ago, I made one to learn how to use Premiere, and I'm still into good AMVs. That was one of the highlights of going to anime cons, to seeing the results of the AMV contest in the era before you could just download AMVs. But
they were also more novel in a pre-YouTube time.
Oh yeah, but I also, as a side effect, I have come to deeply appreciate because anime fans like embrace the AMV like for a lot of reasons I don't want to get into much more strongly than other fan communities. But occasionally you will find a fan community that has no tradition of making like music video edited from the thing that they are fans of. Like there's no tradition of that. That's not a thing that happens in that fandom. And then someone in the fandom will just make one and release it to the group. Way back at RIT, and I still have a copy of it, I found one someone made to the Horatio Hornblower series, set to the song Candle on the Water. Oh, it was horrible. It was awful. But I appreciate
that we were into.
I appreciate that it existed. So what I have found, this video was uploaded 17 years ago to YouTube. And according to the description, this video was made in 1991. And it is a fan video that is very well edited about I Love Lucy and the music in I Love Lucy. And it is great. And if you have never watched I Love Lucy, I'm not saying it's the best show in the world, but it is an important television show. It was one of the first modern sitcoms. It was one of the first television shows to use certain modern techniques of production. And if you're not aware, it's also a musical. Like every episode would have a variety show style musical act baked into it. The show was actually
that's how TV was in those days.
Yeah.
Right? But I think the most important thing about I Love Lucy that people, I think, don't remember.
That Lucille Ball was a radical communist agitator who was super pro-union and did a lot of good political work.
Well, yeah, but it also invented syndication. Right?
Yeah.
Like before I Love Lucy, you would only really you turn on the TV and it was like radio. You would see what's on now that's live, right? And you would see what's like in your area that's on TV. Like there were shows, like children's shows, especially, there'd be like different children's shows in different areas because the TV antenna only broadcast so far. And so you would need people in Chicago would see a different show than the kids in New York would, right? But I Love Lucy, they recorded it and they syndicated reruns. And so that was like one of the first times that this happened, where it's like everyone saw I Love Lucy in the whole freaking country, other countries, because they played tapes and you could turn on TV and see older episodes would be on.
Yep.
And now that's just.
And then with Nick at Night, which I feel at this point Nick at Night is unknown to most people because that's already an old thing. But Nick at Night re-syndicated shows like I Love Lucy at a 90s and 80s audience and rekindled interest in the show yet again. And the show was good, like, for what it is. I enjoyed I Love Lucy, but this video, for being made in 1991, is fantastic.
Well, it's because the video is made by a very talented person.
Yeah. There's a note about, the description literally is of this video. This nice video mix was produced in 1991 by that weird guy, ... Well, read the credits at the end of the clip. You'll understand. So in the meta moment, we're going to be live at PAX West. So on Monday at 1 p.m. in the Firebird Theater, a talk that GeekNights has never done before. We're going to talk about auctions and bidding, and along the way, we're going to share some memes from train games. It's going to be a pretty fun talk. So if you want to see us at the con, that is the one time and place. It is guaranteed both I and Scott will be in a location that is known in advance for at least 55 to 65 minutes.
Probably the nice wooden stairs with the cozy cushions.
Yep. So I'm going to post, I'll pick a time and a place for like any other GeekNights meetups, but the wooden stairs with the cozy cushions, if you don't know the new PAX West venue, when you go into this venue, as soon as you see the thing we just talked about, you'll know exactly what we meant. That is the place. That is the place we will meet up if we at any point say we are going to meet up with people outside of our panel. Otherwise, it's going to be a good time. Looking forward to this. I didn't get to go to PAX West last year. So as long as I don't get, I guess I already got COVID a couple weeks ago. So I think I'm pretty safe to be able to go to this PAX.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right. So let's dive right into it. Donkey Kong Bananza. I'm only like 10 hours in, but I'm enjoying it a lot. And I realized I haven't played a Donkey Kong game until now in a long time.
I mean, I'm not actually a huge fan of Donkey Kong, the 2D ones, like the Donkey Kong Country.
I bounced, when I was a kid, when those came out, I bounced off of them so hard.
There's just something about the way they control that's like off to me. I don't know what it is. I know other people, love those, and I can see why. I like the barrel shooting parts. I think are really good, and the minecart riding parts. Those are the famous parts.
Also, the aesthetic. They looked great on that hardware.
Oh yeah, but the actual playing of the platforming part is not for me. I like the Donkey Kong games I like the most are the puzzly ones. So you had, I guess the original one is not so much a puzzle platformer, even though it's okay. But then there's DK 94 for the Game Boy, and there's all the Donkey Kong minis, Mario vs. DK games.
Yep. I played through a good chunk of DK 94. That game is, I think we talked about it in GeekNights. That game's not what you think it is if you've never played it.
Nope. But yeah, and then DK64 was, right? Diddy Kong Racing is like, okay, it's not, there's nothing wrong with it, necessarily. But yeah, it's like they come out and they're like, okay, DK Bananza is like one of the first Switch 2 exclusives. And it's like, well, if you got a Switch 2, the only real exclusive games right now are Mario Kart World and DK Bananza. And I guess the wheelchair basketball one.
Yep.
And so it's like, well, you might as well get it. And it looks a lot like, the other big Nintendo games these days. A lot of Mario Odyssey aspects, a lot of Zelda, aspects going on. But, obviously with DK instead as the main character. And it's interesting in that I think they were on this track of this certain kind of open world thinking, and they're going further down the track. Right?
Yep.
So
they're refining this track to like this is one of the most refined versions of this track that exists, I think, right now.
It's like if you think about video games, single player video games, it's always like, okay, you want to progress from the beginning to the end. It could be linear, it could not be, but it's like in order to go forward, you must do certain things, right? So in Mario 1, it's like, well, you either got to get a warp zone or you got to beat the level right? to go forward. You have to do it. And then you start to get a little more open, say Mario 64, and it's like, okay, you don't have to do everything, but you have to get a certain number of stars to open the gate to go to the next area.
Yep. And then if you're hardcore, you can go back and get all the other stars later, or maybe you just don't. Maybe you do it all right then and there. Like you kind of choose how much challenge do I want? Do I really care about that one star that looks like a pain in the ass, or do I go kill Bowser?
Right. And you get to Breath of the Wild, and Breath of the Wild's like, you know what? There's a huge world. There's a whole bunch of stuff to do in this world. We've made all that so you can play. It's a big place for you to play in for a long amount of time. But you can just go straight to the boss, and it's possible to beat it.
Yep.
And
Link,
we'll make it
naked and screaming, running straight at Ganon.
Right. We'll make it easier for you if you go and do other stuff, but to encourage you to do the other stuff. But you can just go straight to the end and just beat this game. It's not really about progressing to the end. It's about enjoying all this, we've laid out this huge feast before you. Eat the meals on the table that you want to eat.
But an important point,
much or as few of the dishes as you like. There is a wide variety.
But there's a philosophy of there are little things to find pretty much everywhere, but you are not expected or encouraged to seek all of them out. It's more that no matter where you're poking around, you'll find something. There's no empty area in the map.
Yeah, you think about a game like, say, I don't know, Fallout 3, right?
Yeah.
Or even Skyrim. And it's like, yeah, there's a town full of stuff and you found a cave full of stuff. And in between, there's a lot of walking or, random encounters, right? So games have always, with maps, have always had this sort of empty travel space. And it's like with, the newer Nintendo open worldy games, it's like, no, it's like no matter where you are, we are going to completely jam pack. No matter where you are, there's something. There's a Korok. There's something everywhere, right? It's completely dense with things to do no matter where you go. And it's just how much of the places do you go to and how much of the things do you bother to do? And when you are sated and full, you can beat the game if you like and go to the next area. And we're going to make the game so big that you can just, play it. You won't, if you're the kind of person who just wants to do a lot of stuff, it'll take a long time to run out of stuff.
Now, the difference between these two, because Donkey Kong is sort of combining two big aspects of these two parallel philosophies, because you had the Mario games that had the stars are like almost this synthetic goal. Like you see it there. The game is like, that is the thing to go do. But Breath of the Wild was more, this is a world where things make sense. That big castle in the distance is where plot will happen. There isn't like a floating star above it saying, get the 5th star by going here. So Donkey Kong now has the N64 style stars in the bananas, coupled with the world filled with everything, coupled with the like Mario aesthetic of these are all playsets. Like these puzzles are like, look, here is a puzzle. Do you want to engage with it or not?
Yeah, and it's like, and if you found all the bananas, it's like if you really want to, you can find all the fossils.
Yeah.
That's the fossils of the core.
There is no universe where I'm getting every fossil.
The completely deranged people can find all the fossils.
I intend to get most, if not all, of the bananas, but I think that is the extent of my...
There are hundreds of bananas. Like
that's what struck me at first. Mario 64
was like 120 stars, 100 and something stars. I don't remember exactly how many.
I feel like you'll get 100 bananas by accident before you even know how to play the game.
Yeah. I think it's 7. Let me get the exact number. I think it's 700 plus.
And the game, like, the way it feels is if you start Mario 64 and after you did the tutorial, there's like 40 stars like that you know about that you just keep bumping into. Like the world is lousy with the stars.
There are 935 plus bananas.
Plus, all right. I feel like I'm gonna get about 900 and then I'm gonna be done.
Yeah. It's like there are so many bananas to get in this game.
And
but basically, yeah.
You can go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, what this game is fundamentally about is, you're Donkey Kong, right? And all you can really do is move around, jump, and smash.
Yep.
But you can smash basically anything. So,
anything.
Yeah, almost anything. There's unsmashable stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But mostly anything you can smash. And so you're exploring these spaces that, not just what's visible to you, but also what's underground.
Yep. As soon as I realized I'm not just going to be smashing stuff in an overworld, because I went into the game having watched no trailers, knowing nothing about it. As soon as I realized I can just build a mine tunnel through the world, I realized what was going on.
Yeah, and there's a little scanner sonar ability you can use to help find things that are underground, which is very helpful. I recommend upgrading that quickly.
Yep. No, I did. I followed the progression of all good people because there's also you're leveling DK up with a Deus Ex style like skill chart.
I mean, there's a set number of skills, and every 5 bananas gets you 1 skill point, but sometimes you need more than 1 skill point to upgrade something.
Yep. I did the thing of didn't upgrade my health for a long time and kept I always prioritized new ability I do not have over making any existing thing better, except after a little while, I started leveling up the pick up. I got the second level up of pick stuff up because I didn't want to keep picking stuff up.
Yeah, and I prioritize new abilities that let me do something I couldn't do before, but also I prioritize quality of life over like health, because like what's the consequence of dying? I lose some gold. It's like there's so much gold in the game. It's just free. Who cares?
Yeah, but I maximized my slap the ground to pick up everything nearby.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, so Donkey Kong, he can jump, he can pick up the ground and swing pieces of the ground, and there's different materials that you can dig that have different properties, and some are harder to dig than others or impossible to dig.
Yep.
And you can do all sorts of regular DK things, but then over time you unlock these bonanzas, which is basically a temporary transformation into another form.
Turn into a violent zebra.
Right, so you can beat this a zebra, spoilers, I guess, an elephant, a snake, an ostrich, a stronger DK is the first one you get. And you transform, and once you're transformed, like in that mode, you can actually switch between the animals like instantly. It's just there's a timer on how long you can stay in that mode, and you gotta have to recharge a little bit, which only comes into play in a few places where they've just structured the level in such a way where they don't want you to. And there are other times where like they force you to just stay in a mode like without using that meter because they want you to do like the elephant challenge. This is all about elephant abilities. You're going to be in elephant mode this whole time during the duration of this challenge.
And I think that's what strikes me the most about the game, that the world is just the world. Like the game does not do the thing of, oh, here's a puzzle, and then like something like everything changes and you just do the puzzle. You're just doing them in the world as you're going.
No, they're like these places you can go into a lot like
true.
Mario Sunshine, where you go in and it's almost like a shrine in a Breath of the Wild. Also, same idea.
Yep.
Where like you go in and it's like, okay, you're in a special separate instance. There are 3 bananas in here. Can you get them?
Yep. But a lot of them are also just, you're in the world and you see something, and as you walk toward it, it becomes a puzzle that you just, you almost end up engaging with it even if you weren't planning on it.
Yep. Now, the thing about this game that I think is not obvious to the casual player is that they give you so many different abilities and different ways to swing and dig and jump and spin jump and all this stuff and all the different animals, is that basically with various movement tech, they've come up with this movement tech called the FATs. You can basically just like grab a piece of the ground and start flying if you know how to push the buttons right, and you can just you'll see when there's a GDQ, like speedrunners are already just skipping the whole game. The any percent run, like they just skip the whole game because you don't have to get all these bananas. You just need to get to the boss. You can skip levels. There's one part in the game where it's like you're going to the next level and they're like, okay, instead of just going from level, I don't know if it's 2 to 3, they're like, listen, you can do this level next or this level next. And then after you do one of the 2 levels, basically the path reconverges and they're like, okay, this is the next level, but you can't do it until you go back and do the level you didn't do, right? So it's just, it's sort of letting you choose whether to do one level before the other, but it's still making you do both of them. But if you're not a casual player, you can just sort of skip and only do one of the 2 levels,
which leads to a big fun of the game. Is you'll be sitting there and you're like, all right, I know there's a banana or a thing like over in that direction, and you're looking at it and you're thinking about, how am I gonna get there? And a lot of the gameplay that's not a very narrow focused puzzle is planning, how am I going to get to that place I can see in the distance? And the variety of ways you might attack that problem are surprising because of how you can combine all these different movements. But so the skill cap's really high on what you could do with DK, but if you don't engage on that level, you can button mash in a pretty intuitive way that kind of just works. Like if you don't really know exactly how everything works and you're just like hitting your buttons and holding your stick and moving the camera around, you'll still like be able to dig tunnels through the ground pretty effectively and like play the game.
Yeah, but it's like, you'll see a banana and you want to get to it, and there's clearly like every banana has like an intended way to get it. It's like, yes, this one I'm supposed to, I don't know, navigate these hanging vines or whatever.
But I'm just like, banana. No, I'm just gonna get way up high and fall on this thing. I can make that happen.
Right. It's like it's like, no, actually, there's a way to get to it just by digging, or there's a way to get to it if I use the ostrich or the snake, or there's a way to get to it with this unintended movement tech that speedrunners found. I can just fly to it and get it. It's like, this the game's kind of busted and broken, but it ends up being like this crazy sandbox place where you could just move around and do all kinds of stuff. And it's just so rich because there's nowhere that you can go that's like a boring spot. Like these big maps, there's a ton of them. And no matter where you are on any of the maps, there's stuff going on, right?
And
there's no
somehow
spot.
The puzzle, like the things you're engaging with, all feel really different from each other. Like you're always doing something new. You don't feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again.
I think the last thing is that when you get towards the end of the game, it's like I'm like, okay, final boss, but there's got to be another boss after this one. And it's like, yeah, of course there is. There's always a boss behind the boss that's supposed to be the final boss.
Yeah, Kefka taught me that.
Right. No, there are like 5 or 6. It just kept going. I thought it was over, but it kept going. And it's like, I was trying to go to bed, and it's like, I was like, no, I'll beat it because I'm so close. It's like, I was not close. I should have gone to bed and beat it the next day. Instead, I would have gotten to sleep sooner. There were so many more bosses. So it's quite for the increased price of the Switch 2 games, and the fact that there's not much reason to buy a Switch 2 right now besides this game. It's like, should you buy a Switch 2 for this game? Only if you're a crazy DK lover, right? Yep. If you have a Switch 2, should you buy this game? Well, yeah. Otherwise, what did you buy the Switch 2 for?
Yeah.
So early when you could have waited to buy a Switch 2. But it's like I bought the game on. It's like if I had bought a Switch 2, it's like I'm really buying the Switch 2 for like some other games. And, if this game had come out later in the Switch 2 life cycle, would I have still gotten it? Right? It's like probably, but less likely. Right?
Yep.
Because they released it now when there isn't another Switch 2 game, but I bought a Switch 2 for like Metroid Prime 4 and other future games. Like, there's going to be a Zelda at some point, right? It's going to happen. There's going to be a Mario at some point. It's going to happen. Because the game came out now and doesn't have, that's why I definitely like must buy it. But it's like, oh, it's actually, I might have actually missed out on a good game.
I might have missed out on this,
later.
and I'm really enjoying my time with this game so far.
Yeah. So
some minor things, like little things I want to point out, because the game is designed and there's a lot of little details. One fun thing I like is that DK just has smash options. So if you're near an NPC and you smash, what DK does is basically high fives that NPC and is like, hey.
NPC. There's some NPCs he just smashes.
There are, but most most NPCs, if you go up and instead of it's not someone you can talk to and you just hit punch while you're looking right at them, DK smiles and high fives them, and then they high five back and they get all excited. It's just a fun little aesthetic bit. But 2, there's a little quality of life thing where most NPCs, you do not need to press any button to talk to. They will say the thing they're going to say if you get near them, and you can just let that happen. You don't have to walk up to everyone and hit A and wait for a dialogue to say something. The only characters that do that are characters that are going to trigger something in the game or a major important beat. So you can kind of just roll through, and there's a lot of monkeys in a room, and they all just kind of say something while you go by. But the thing I really appreciated is the game starts fully in media res with a full cold open, and I'm seeing this trend appearing a little bit more in these kinds of games, and I like it. The game is there's no tutorial even. You're you're Donkey Kong, walk around, and then shit just starts happening around you, and you just go.
Well, the old Mega Man, right?
Yeah.
That's the correct way, right? It's like you press start, okay, you're playing the game. Don't give me Nintendo really never, sometimes I guess they have games with annoying cutscenes, but not like some of the other right?
Yep. But so this
game does have some cutscenes in it, but not too many, and they're not too long to be annoying.
Yep. But just you within seconds of starting this game for the first time, you are punching the shit out of some rocks. So yeah, I highly recommend this one. If you have a Switch, you should absolutely buy this game. And if you like this game and you never played like any of the Mario games for whatever reason, like I don't know, that's a genre you should explore a little bit more. I don't think I have anything else. I think we went long enough.